Hi, this is Rob from dmbAlmanac.com with This Week in Dave Matthews Band History. It's late October, which was historically the Bridge School benefit time of year. The benefit was an annual two-night charity concert that ran from 1986 to 2016 and usually held at Shoreline Amphitheater. It was organized by Neil and Peggy Young, and the sets from all the bands are unique in that they're traditionally all acoustic shows. Overall, Dave played 12 shows at the benefit over 6 years. 3 with all of DMB, the first one in 1997, 1 solo in 2001, and 2 with just Tim, including the final show in 2016. The sets are also known for their collaborations. Dave guested many nights with other artists and also in the multi-artist finale each year. Also, guests joined the stage with Dave at almost every show. Highlights include John Popper guesting their first benefit show, and Neil Young sitting in many times, including DMB debut versions of his Cortez the Killer in 2000 and an 18-minute Down by the River in 2006, 2 songs that stuck around in DMB's catalog. Tracy Chapman guested with Dave solo in 2001, and Marcus Mumford highlights the Dave and Tim weekend in 2011 on a must-hear watchtower. You can find all the sets from the Bridge School shows at dmbAlmanac.com, and we never stop looking for information on older shows. Follow us on Facebook and Threads to get daily updates with everything that happened that day in the band's history.
Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to The Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast that is solely about the fans of Dave Matthews Band. If this is your very first time to listen to this podcast, first of all, thank you so much for finding it and being willing to listen to an episode to see if this is even something that you want to listen to. But I'm going to put in a little alert right here for those of you that are listening, because this particular episode is only available on podcast apps. This one will not be available on YouTube. This episode is going to be a little different, a lot different. So I'm the guest of this episode, which is odd because I am also the host. But I think from time to time, it's important for me to share my story because, of course, my story is always evolving just like yours. And that's why I invite so many of my guests to come back on the show and tell me how things are going. Life changes so fast for all of us. Good things can happen and bad things can happen and things in between, right? So again, if this is your very first episode to listen to, you know what? I would like to politely excuse you from this episode because I would not want you to base this whole podcast that I've been working on for almost 3 years just based on this episode, because this is not going to give you a good taste of what this show is about. But for those of you that continue to listen on past this moment, thank you. Like I said, this is going to be a different, obviously, every other show that I have put out, except a few. I've done a few check-ins in the past 3 years. But for the 99% of the rest of the recordings, it's a guest on this show every single time. A guest that is a fan of Dave Matthews Band, and whether they have found this band 6 months ago or if they started following them in 1991, they all have a story. They all have a story of how they found this music or how the music found them. And there are stories that are so great. The people that have just been so affected by this music, often it's called the soundtrack of our lives. And that those exact phrase has been used over and over by guests on the show. And it's one that I identify as well with. You know, with the band starting in 1991, I was 11 years old, so I didn't have the luxury of being that cool that I picked up on it in 91. I had to wait a few years. I know that there are currently a lot of young people that are finding this band because of their parents or because they're just, randomly awesome and they just came across it. But there are literally different ages of people that love this band and the almost 35 years of music that they have provided for us. It's like we've almost never gone without them, right? Like for some of us, we have never gone without them. They've just been there our whole lives. And that's just a really cool thing. And I think each story brings such a different point of view, because we're all so different and we find it in different ways at different times. And how it affected you or how it didn't affect you it's all a different story. So like I said, today I am going to be the host and the guest, but I promise not to ask myself any questions because at that point it just gets weird for everyone. And I'm just going to speak from my heart and share with you guys a couple of things that have been in my world. If you're interested in hearing the first part of my story, like the why I made this podcast, why it's called the Space Between podcast, if you're interested in my previous stories, you can find those sprinkled in it. And so I'm going to update you just, I haven't, if you follow this podcast on the regular, I haven't been as active as I normally have. And that's funny. It's not funny, but it's funny because all of the podcasts that I've released before this one have been saying, you guys, I'm going to be releasing them at, 2 every week because I have the content ready. Life's just been busy and I've not had as much time to invest into this podcast because, other areas of my life needed some attention. And so I'm going to talk about where I've been the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Time right now is a very hard thing to understand. Like the time is going by so fast and some days it's so slow. It's weird how that does that to your head. So let's go back to September. My father, he was turning 78. And so I was like, we're going to do something, about to eat. Breakfast was like his favorite thing. So I thought, me and my brothers, we took him out to eat for breakfast. And had I seen my dad on the regular before that day? Yes and no. I wasn't seeing my dad as often as I should have, but life gets busy, right? Like it really does. I'd like to spend more time with my parents. I'd also like to spend more time with my children, but like things evolve and our time is just not enough of it, right? So on my dad's birthday, I just noticed some changes. If you don't know, I was a nurse for 15 years. I actually retired my license this year voluntarily. And I'm actually just so happy with this choice. I'm so thankful that I got to serve in that capacity for 15 years, and I'm proud of the work that I was able to do, especially during COVID, working all the way through that with some of the most age groups. And so I retired my license, and I'm super happy about that. So I had some background, right? I kind of knew, I guess I should also say that my specialty that I worked most of my career, not all of my career, I did a lot of different things, mental health, ER, family practice. I worked for insurance companies. But where I mainly focused is where I fell in love with people. And that is my favorite population of people. Those are called the 80 plus club. Those are my favorite. I just love it. I love it. And maybe I'll back it up. 70. It just depends on the person, right? But like, I love them. They're funny. They've gotten to the point in their lives where they just tell you what they think. And they're not trying to like, protect your feelings or anything. I appreciate directness. I really do. I say all that to say, my mind is very geared towards thinking about the senior population. And so my dad turning 78 would definitely be in that category. I saw some signs and symptoms just that were not my dad. Could be that it was just aging. Yes. Could it be that he's depressed because he worked his whole life and he got a little sick and couldn't go back out? That's sad. I could believe it was that too. There were a lot of things it could be. And so, when people appear one way or the other, it could be just an off day. It could be because I have those days, where I'm just not myself or, maybe I'm forgetful or whatever. That doesn't mean I have dementia, but everybody has those days. And so it was at that moment I decided, okay, wait a second. The only way I'm going to know what's going on is if I spend some time with him. And so it was at that moment on his birthday, September 17th, I decided to get really heavily involved in like his day-to-day. So, I went to his apartment, checked it all out. I just was around him enough to hear him talk and talk to me. What did he talk about? What did he do when he was in his home? Because those are the things I didn't know. What was he doing in his home? Because he was living alone. FYI, really important to talk about. So as time moves on, I start to catch all these things. I'm like, okay, we've got to go to the doctor. I knew I needed to get focused and figure out, okay, what's going on? And I mean, really, there's a lot of details to that. And a lot of that is blurry. So got to the doctor with him. My brother came with me. And I was just like, hey, I'm just, I'm concerned. I'm seeing a few things with my dad. Like, I don't know what's going on with him medically. And so he pulled out the list of diagnoses. And there were not just one or two. I mean, there were just multiple. Some I knew about, some I didn't know about. The one that I did not know about was that he had already been diagnosed with dementia. There were things that happened that made them pay attention. I don't know how long my father had it, but he had it long enough to where I was picking up on things. And that's pretty far when I can pick up on things pretty quickly. But you had to spend some time with him to pick up on those things, because if you were just seeing him for 10 minutes or for 20 minutes, or maybe some days even 30 minutes, you wouldn't pick up on it. You'd have to be around him for a little bit to start seeing the little things that he was doing. And so we found out that day that he had been diagnosed. Our doctor helped us get through a lot of hurdles, jump through some hoops. I mean, there's a lot of things going in when you're talking about, my dad can't legally make decisions anymore because of this diagnosis. So at first, I made the decision when I was trying to figure out everything, like what are the things that he needs right now to be successful? When I got super involved in his day-to-day, I mean, he wasn't eating. So I had to start delivering hot meals, 3 meals a day. And that can be tricky when you have children and a job and you're trying to do all the other things that life has for you. And so I did rely some on DoorDash. And my dad actually thought that was fascinating, that someone just showed up at his door and gave him free food, because that was his fear. Like, well, who paid for it? Well, do I need to pay you? And I didn't even order this, And so he loved DoorDash. He loved DoorDash. And I thought that was so funny because I had never really actually thought that through. That generation probably doesn't. I mean, obviously there's some cool cats out there that are up to date on technology, but my dad was just never. He hated his iPhone. And so DoorDash was not a thing that my dad even heard of. And so what a surprise and what joy it gave me now looking back about how fun that was for him. But a lot of times I would just make a little leftover tray of whatever we ate. I remember one night we had lasagna, corn, bread, green beans, the whole deal. And I just put it in a little to-go container after we finished eating. I went over with my dad and I ate with him. And he was like, did you cook this? I was like, yeah. And, it was cool. He was like, oh my, thank you so much. Like, he was so appreciative. So another thing that my dad was not doing was he was not taking his medication. My dad has been a diabetic for as long as I can remember. My dad had a triple bypass surgery at some point in years. But my dad had some health issues, but those were not the things that he remembered. He wasn't thinking about his health. He wasn't thinking about medications. All of that part of the brain, again, had been destroyed by this disease. And so I then, of course, had to take on, with the guidance of his physician, of course, of what he should take, started coming over. My dad took medicine 3 times a day. So I was the sole person that did that. So food and medication, and making sure he stayed hydrated. But at the same time, I couldn't stay at his apartment all day. Again, there's pick up kids, drop off kids, running kids everywhere, doing all the things, making sure you see your husband, spending time with him, and I was trying to record podcasts, which, I did stop. I haven't recorded one in a while just because all that kind of had to go into the back burner. So once I started really looking into Dad's diagnoses, because again of my many years in senior health, I noticed that Dad had some diagnoses that would qualify him for a program called hospice. Now, if you've heard of hospice and that made you initially just kind of cringe and maybe feel a little fearful or weary of hearing what I'm going to say next, then I'm sorry, but hospice because I have worked so much with hospice, just in nursing and especially senior health, we saw a lot of death. That was our job, is to take care of people until death. So I was very comfortable with hospice, and I knew what they provided. I knew how hospice worked. Hospice is not something that means that you're about to die. It means that you have a diagnosis that is probably going to be the thing that kills you. We can't say, yes, that's going to be the thing that's going to kill you, because you could choke the next day. I don't know, but there's a list of, there's diagnoses out there and there's a whole list of them. If you want to know more about those diagnoses, you can definitely Google those. And so that qualified him for hospice. And for me, in my head and my knowledge, I knew that what that was going to provide is extra help, which is what I needed, especially being a full-time caregiver. I needed support. And so I knew that that was going to free me up a little bit, but also know that I've got eyes on him. I've got nurses' eyes on him that are not his daughter, because again, I try to do what I preach. And what I've always preached to people is you can do it, but we don't recommend that you be a caregiver and a spouse, or a caregiver and a daughter, a caregiver and a son, because those two things are very different. And it's really hard on people that have to be both of those roles. And so I knew I needed help, or maybe not in that moment, but I was going to eventually need help. So support was important to me. So I asked his physician if he would send a referral into hospice. And he, of course, knew that my dad had some qualifying diagnoses that it would be approved. And so bing, bang, boom, hospice was at his house, and they were admitting him as a hospice patient, even though he was not actively dying. We were not thinking that Dad was actively dying. He didn't necessarily even have signs and symptoms at that time that was even something on our radar. Everything happened in perfect timing, in God's perfect timing, because there's no way that all of this lined out the way that it did without just God's hand all over that. So once he got qualified and admitted into hospice, that really opened up some doors for me, because I knew that he needed eyes on him 24/7. I just knew that. The nurses agreed, the doctors agreed. So I brought him home. And one of the hard parts about that was the only extra bedroom I had was upstairs. And that was not going to be something that was safe for my father. So hospice provided me with a bed that I put in my dining room. And it was all free, because Medicare covers hospice at 100%. So hospice provided us with 24-hour call line. If I needed a nurse to come out, it was free. She or he came out and assessed based on what I thought was going on or whatever. There was a social worker that was also available for me, always checking on me. They understood that I was the daughter and the caregiver, and that I was doing it at home. Phone calls every day from different parts of hospice, and it was blowing me away, the support that they were giving my father and making sure that he was safe and comfortable, but also making sure that I was okay. And that felt really nice, because I had to be that person before for all my patients. So fast forward a little time forward, my dad just really was, even before this, just not really steady on his feet. But in this time, he had become a lot more prone to have a fall, because he didn't have his balance at all. It was really, really, really off. And he would even admit to that, I'm feeling really dizzy. So again, me being of mind of we're not having any falls, that made me do a few things. That made me put some sensors on the bed. But then there was a remote in my room, so it would send a little signal to me, it was like a little sound. And so then I could jump up and go and help him to the restroom, because he was able to walk. But if he did it on his own, we knew he would fall. And one night that did happen before we got the sensor. So we got the sensor, and thank God he didn't hurt himself with that first fall. It was terrible, and it scared me. But with time, again, the days and the things got blurry. And from the time I brought him home until the time he passed away was 10 days. When I brought him home with me, that was never something that I thought was about to happen. I didn't think I just only had 10 days. No, of course, I'm always in the mindset of we're not promised tomorrow. But in my best nursing judgment, I didn't think that we were 10 days out, although things can change really quickly. And that is what happened with my father. Things changed really quickly, and he passed away 10 days after I brought him home. Thankfully, I was able to get him transported to the hospice house, I believe 2 days, or it's all blurry. I think 2 days before he passed. It was the goal of mine to not have him pass in my house. I just wanted my children to have that comfort in knowing that Papa wasn't going to be here when he left.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. What is going on, Space Between podcast listeners? This is David, the drummer with the Dave Matthews Tribute Band, here to tell you about 2 new tours we have coming up to close out 2025. First, the DMTB will embark on its Tomorrow We Die Fall Tour, starting October 2nd in Woodbury, Connecticut, and completing December 6th in Plattsburgh, New York. This tour features a run of shows down to Florida and back, with stops in Ohio, Virginia, North Carolina, all the way down to Key West and back, with stops in Illinois, Michigan, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New England in general, you name it. We're probably going to be in a city near you if you live on the East Coast. So make sure you check out the dmtb.com/tour and see if we're going to be near you. Second, we're absolutely stoked about our Gamblers and Robbers 2025 New Year's Eve tour. This tour is going to have 5 shows between December 26th and December 30th in the Northeast region, a highlight of which will be a stop in Buffalo, New York at one of our all-time favorite venues, Town Ballroom, as well as other killer shows around the Northeast to ring in the new year and celebrate the holidays Dave style. So make sure to check out the dmtb.com/tour for events and ticket info, and follow us on the various socials like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and so on by searching the DMTB. Hope to see you on the road. Back to the podcast.
And that was kind of something that I wanted as well. I didn't want to have that moment with my dad in my home. I wanted to have it with my brothers and my family somewhere else where it was comfortable for all of us. And that's what happened. And inpatient hospice was like literally it's something I'd been through before with my grandmother and even my grandfather, even though he chose to continue staying home. Hospice was just always so good to us as a family. Not only good to the person that we were loving on that we were losing, but so good to us too. And it takes that to get through these terrible things, because it's not hard on the person that died. It's only hard on the people that are left behind. And so they understand that and they focus on that. And it's just been a lovely thing. So important to mention, and also terrible, but you just don't get to decide when things are going to happen. God has his own timing, and I'm just here to receive whatever that is. And so Justin was here at my house for a few days with my dad. He did so much to help me when he knew I needed a minute. And I really want to talk about my best friend, Leah. She came over she was always a part of it before it even started. She was just there. She did what I needed. If it was pick up a kid from school, she got it. And I can't remember if at this point she was still working a full-time job. Yeah, she was still working a full-time job. Since then, she's gotten an amazing promotion and she's able to work from home. So I'm so proud of her. But I don't want to say because we know we can get through hard things alone, but we don't want to. And this experience would have been completely different without my family, without my best friend. It just would have been really, really a lot harder. And they made it easier. They were there for me. They were there for my dad. And like I said, everything really just happened in the most beautiful way a death can go. We got to say our goodbyes. And being able to do that, there's a certain amount of peace that comes with that. My dad was the first parent I've ever lost. I've only lost grandparents. But being the first, you don't know how you're going to go through that. You don't even know. Because your whole life, that's not something we think about. We don't dwell on that, even though there should be some pre-planning and all of that. Yes. It's not something we think about. How are we going to get through that? Because most of us would probably say, I'm not going to be able to get through that. But at the same time, we all know that death comes for us all. So I just want to say a really big thank you to Leah. Your nursing brain was so wonderful to have a backup. I'm just so thankful to have you and your time and your knowledge and your love and all of the funny things that happened between you and my dad. There's so many backstories of funny things that happened in the little sleep that we got when Dad was starting to decline. So Justin had been on a work trip during all of this. And that's why, again, I'm so thankful that I had my friends and family around me and the constant support of so many of my friends. People from everywhere just came out and really sent me so much support, whether that was, a messenger, text, phone call, sympathy card. I saw all of those messages and listened to every voicemail, and I didn't reply back to a lot of them because what do I say? Just thank you, everyone, for the support that you showed me, because it really did help me get through all of that. But I also didn't want to be alone. And Justin was still gone on his trip after this happened. And so I got a phone call from one of my friends that I met through Dave Matthews Band. He loves the band. I'm going to say his name. I'm going to say all the names in this part of the story because, man, they're just worth giving. And I've already said so many names: Leah and my brother Michael, my brother Jason, my mother Paula, and my kids. They were involved in their own way. But I got a phone call from Ben Parker. Basically, the conversation kind of went like this, and I can't remember word for word, but basically, hey, if you can get down here, I have got you a place to stay, and why don't we just follow around the Dave Matthews Tribute Band? He was like, all these people are going to be there that I knew, and I will mention those people by name later. They want you to stay at their house. They, want to help you get through this week. Some of those people had lost a parent before, and, they knew I needed some support. They knew that Justin wasn't home yet, even though that time frame was all very blurry. He did come back, obviously, and I did see him. But so I thought about it. And, my mom heart was like, I can't leave my kids. I can't just up and leave my kids. So I figured out a way for me and Grace to get to Florida. Ben picked us up and he drove us to St. Augustine in Florida, where the Dave Matthews Tribute Band was doing their first show in Florida. They were going to do a run of 4. It was St. Augustine, Boca Raton, Key West, and then Bonita Springs, Florida. So 4 shows in like 4 days or something. It was wild. So Ben, thank you so much for loving on our family when we needed it, but also knowing that like some Dave music wasn't going to hurt, right? Like you knew that was going to feed my heart and my soul, but mostly just being around my Dave friends and just their love and support. It meant so much to me, and the fact that they all were like, absolutely, we can help, house you or drive you around or whatever. Just, thank you so much. So the plan got worked out, and Grace and I flew to Florida. We met Ben. Ben drove us again, to St. Augustine, where we got to see so many of our friends. And I just want to say a big shout out to Tracy Lynn and her husband, Evie. They were there, and they were so willing to please come over to our house, please stay. We've got a place. We want to love on you. And those were her exact words. But she just happened to live a little further in the opposite direction of what we were heading the next day. And so I was like, I just don't think that's going to work with my teenage daughter and all this stuff. And so I was like, I think we just need to move the way we're going to be going. And so a big shout out to them for just loving on me. That night was incredible. I have so many funny pictures and videos from that time, and I look at them often just reliving this whole thing because it was such a trip of love and doing exactly what Dave people do to their tribe. And my tribe loved on me when I needed it. And it wasn't during tour season. It wasn't at a concert. We found a way. I mean, yeah, we went to 4 Dave Matthews tribute bands, but that is the band to go see. If you need some Dave and the real Dave Matthews Band is not touring, you go see Dave Matthews Tribute Band. If you have never heard of them, they're the only tribute band that tours nationally. There's a lot of tribute bands out there, and they're all pretty dang good. This is the only one that travels the whole nation. And their whole tribute part, people want to say whatever they think tribute bands are. There's copycats or try to be them or whatever. But that's exactly the opposite of what the Dave Matthews Tribute Band does. The Dave Matthews Tribute Band pays tribute to the original sound of Dave Matthews Band. And if you've only been a fan for a short while, that may not make a whole lot of sense. But I encourage you to do your history, because from 1991 till I don't think Dave Matthews Tribute Band really plays anything past 2001, 2002, 2003 sometimes. But they really pay tribute to that time and that sound, because it is different than what we currently have. And that sound that they are paying tribute to is the sound we'll never have again. Yes, we have the recordings, but we'll never hear it live again. And so that's where the tribute band comes in, as they want to pay tribute, pay respect to the original sounds of the music that we still celebrate almost 35 years later. So along the way, we met up with Linda and John Voight. They are some of our, again, good friends that we've met at Dave. They offered up their house. They let us stay there. They did all the best host and hostess things, had snacks out for us, gave us a tour of their home, and Dave fan. I mean, she had a standing Dave. It's so funny because she has a standing cardboard Dave in her living room as like a permanent fixture. So when we're walking and it's dark, my daughter turns the corner. And of course she's not expecting this because, again, my daughter's not a fan of Dave Matthews Band. She turns, the light comes on. She's like, she's screaming because she's not expecting Dave Matthews to be standing there, which is what it looks like. But also it's cardboard cutout. But I love Linda and John Voight. They live really close to Boca Raton. I love them so much. Thank you so much for loving on my family. Thank you for loving on my daughter. My daughter is obsessed with you now, Linda. And I know that you love her too. And then a big shout out to Shelley and David Bigner. You know, they were there. They were there at the shows because, again, they also follow the tribute band. They have such a big following. Again, if this is the first time you're ever hearing of them, they have a huge following. People that love them and see the beauty in what they're trying to do and what they're trying to pay tribute to. And for people that really love the sound of the fiddle all the time, you go see the tribute band. And if you don't know anything about them, I have interviewed them so many times. I'm actually a partner with them, not a financial partner. I don't make money on this podcast. I only spend money on this podcast. It's a whole weird thing. I call it an extreme hobby because I could just be a golfer, I guess, and that'd be where I spend my money. I don't know. It's expensive to play golf. But Shelley and David Bigner were there. They're just loving souls. And really, obviously they knew that my dad had passed. And so they just loved on me in a special way. And I'm just so thankful for their presence and for their love. Now, I want to talk about this next person, Glow. Her name's Glow Diaz. And I have known her. She's part of our crew. But I've never had any one-on-one time with her, as I haven't with most of my Dave friends, because usually when we're together is at Dave shows. And when we're together, we're talking about Dave and all of that. But I rode from Boca Raton to Key West and then Key West to Bonita Springs with Glow. And I'm just so thankful that she was willing to let me and Grace ride along with her. It was a very long trip down to Key West, and then back from Key West to Bonita Springs, Florida was also quite the drive. But it was beautiful, of course, the water, all the things. It was beautiful. But, I, at that time, and still at this moment, was just in a weird headspace, right? I just lost my father. I have my 15-year-old daughter with me. So that's different because I've never taken her to Dave anything. It was never something she wanted to do, and I was never going to make her. But she wanted to do this with me because she understood that this was part of my process and healing. And that's what these friends of mine were doing, was helping me process that first week of feelings and grief in a very positive atmosphere, and one that I was surrounded with love. So she understood that was going on. And so Glow, I'm so thankful I got to know you. I'm so thankful she took me home with her. We raided her closet for costumes, and there's a whole funny story that I'm not going to have time on this podcast, but Glow, talk about, all I have to say is Fantasy Fest Key West 2025, the festival where Renae Lipsmeyer embarrassed herself. Enough said. Glow, I love you. I'm so thankful I got to spend that time with you. Thank you for loving on my daughter. Thank you for letting us use the car space because now you know that unfortunately I'm not a light packer and I'm working on that, but also it's very hard to know what to wear. It all is sometimes based on my mood. I know these things about myself. So I love you, Glow. I love you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Suzanne Swirl, I saw you at Boca Raton. It was so good to see your face. I know that she was able to understand what I was going through because she's not lost a parent yet, but she's going through those hard times when your parents are not able to take care of themselves. And it's such a difficult time. So Suzanne, thank you for just understanding and loving on me. Garcia, oh my God. Again, another person that's always kind of been in the crew, but never really got to spend any time with her. She lives in Miami. She's fantastic. Here's what I learned about her. She can dance like a rock star. I don't even know, girl, I know you work out because I made a comment about that, but also you've got the energy of, I don't know, like a 12-year-old, maybe a 8-year-old. I don't know. You, girl, I have never seen somebody move so well. You're a great dancer and you're all in it. You're 100% in it when you were there. It was just so fun to feed off your energy and off your love. And so I'm so thankful that you shared a couple of nights with us in the hotel. It was a lot of fun. And then this is not the first time I've mentioned these people. Barbara and John Pittman have actually been guests on this podcast, as have several other people I've mentioned. But Barbara and John Pittman, if you don't know them, they live in Georgia, I believe. It's just right near South Carolina. They are just the sweetest. I love them. I fell in love with them. I met them this year at Jazz Fest in New Orleans. And he messaged me and was like, we'd love to have a meal with you, blah, blah, blah. And we met up with these strangers, and we just fell in love with them instantly. And so we get to see them a lot because they are diehard fans of not only Dave Matthews Band. They love them, of course. They've been on the hook forever. They love the Dave Matthews Tribute Band. They've got invested in who is in the band. Like, they're amazing. They let us stay in their condo in Key West, which thank you. Because again, remember, I came with a 15-year-old girl who wasn't 100% there, happy that she was there, but thank you for loving on us. Grace loves both of you. She just loves Miss Barbara though, but you knew that she would because Miss Barbara was a teacher forever, and she's really good with everyone, actually. This next person I want to talk about, Jenny Litwin, another person that I've gotten to hang out with a lot, but never just this long periods of time one-on-one. And I got to meet her family. I got to stay in her home. I got to meet her cats and her love for all things Disney and the story of why Disney is a big part of who they are. And, we shared some stories and we got to know each other as best we could. And, again, it was still a messy time because I had so many feelings that I didn't know were coming. And I was oftentimes losing things and forgetting things. And I'm just less than a week out of losing my dad. And it was just some confusing times. So thank you for your grace through all of that, Jenny, because I know that I probably lost my keys 15 times or my credit card 15 times. But also I was traveling with my daughter and that was stressful too. And so I don't know. There were moments I'm sure she was like, how do I get out of this lady staying with me? Because of course my flight got delayed. And I ended up having to stay with her another night, which her husband and her son, Mason, I hope that I get to spend more time with him and talk about how Grace is the evil witch, because that made me funny when he said that Grace was the evil witch. And Grace knew that she said that and she thought it was funny. So Jenny, I love you, your family. I hope that one day you pack up that RV and come to Arkansas because we want to show you the hospitality that you showed us. Nathan Wallace, I got to see you in St. Augustine. Dude, you're just the coolest. You always show up with the best swag. Like, everyone wants your stuff because you have like this whole glowing fire dancer situation and the glowing glasses, and you're just so cool. And you're so down to earth, and we've enjoyed watching your travels with your family and how invested you are in with them, and all your karaoke skills. Dude, you've got a karaoke once a week live on social media, and you're so brave for doing that, but you do really well, and we enjoy it when we are able to catch it. Now, I met a new friend. I had met her before, but things get blurry when you travel to a lot of shows and you meet a lot of people. It just gets a little blurry. Her name is Kim McClure, and she, of course, knew that I had lost my father, and she was there with Linda and John Voight, who I spoke of earlier. And so because I was kind of hanging out with Linda, Kim was there. And so we just got to talking, and she was just, I don't know, you know how some people can just share some words with you and it just comforts you. It automatically makes you feel better. I don't know. That was kind of how I felt when I got to talking with her. And I just, automatically liked her and her husband. But her husband had a shirt on that I was like, I don't know, focused on because the shirt said Jake Simpson. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I know who that is. Like, all of a sudden, like, I'm in the Dave world, and then all of a sudden this comes out and I'm like, what is happening? So he had a shirt on that said, they had just been to see him. But the story is they're friends with Jake Simpson. And so that was a very interesting part of the story. And I learned that Jake and I don't live that far apart, which is also another interesting story. And so, I'm Team Jake. I want him to stay on the team that he's currently on because he loves his family band. But I'd love for him to continue to come and be a guest with Dave Matthews Band because his talent is level 10. It is level 10 talent. And I am happy to see him or hear him all the time. So in Bonita Springs, by the time we were in Bonita Springs, I literally didn't know what side of Florida we were on. I mean, I knew we were now on the West Coast instead of the East Coast of Florida. But Bonita Springs was not a city that I was familiar with. But I'm so happy that I was there because I have some friends that live close to there. And while they weren't able to make it to see the tribute band because their son had a football game, and so, that was a Friday night, they were busy being parents. They messaged me and was like, hey, we're really close. After the football game, we'd love to just drop by and hang and say hi and all of that. So I was so excited to get to see Leslie and Dennis Thompson. I met them this year at Charleston. They got to know me on a really weird level, and things only they know, things that no one else knows, but they got to know me in a weird stage of this year. Some exciting things. They were all exciting, but it happened in their condo while we were on the way to Charleston. So we got to know each other that night in Charleston, and I love them. Leslie, you're just remarkable. The things that you have done for your parents. I know that you understand what I'm going through. And so I love the fact that you're a nurse too. And I just love your face, and you're always so beautiful. Dennis, I love you because for some random reason you think I'm funny, and it's always good to be around someone that thinks you're funny, I guess. So Dennis, I'm so glad that y'all both came. And last but not least, I want to thank someone that's very special. Because she lives with the person that I first started talking about when I started giving out all my thank yous. If you remember from the beginning, Ben Parker had called me to say, hey, we're going to get you down here. We're going to get you all these people around you. His wife, maybe not as seen as often as I would like. They have 3 young boys, and so getting away from home is a little harder. So usually it's one at a time. Ben is well known in the Dave Matthews Band world, fan life. He just kind of stands out. He's very tall, and he has a very long gray beard, and I'll say it, one eye. They're both there, but only one can see. And he's just a great guy, but he married a wonderful woman. And I think that this woman has what made Ben the caring person that he is. Her name is Heather, and they have 3 boys, Andrew, Timmy, and Peter Parker. And yes, I said Peter Parker. He is literally Spider-Man, and he knows it too. So all of them came out at some point or the other and just danced with us, danced with other people, and just to have every age there, and all my friends as kids, and just so many different stages of life and people in different directions all coming together to listen to this music that we love, to pay tribute to a sound that we will no longer hear again unless we listen to the live recordings. And we just we shared some love that weekend, and it was amazing. My whole crew kind of knows the Dave Matthews Tribute Band, on a more personal level, because we're the crew that travels to see them. We just do. I left from Arkansas to go on a 4-show run in Florida because I love these guys. They're amazing at what they do, but even more so, I love the people in Florida. Florida is a strong Dave Matthews Band state. I love the state of Florida, and it's always sad when Dave doesn't come to Florida, but DMTB made a way, and we're so thankful for that. So thank you to all of those people. Thank you to everyone that sent the sympathy cards. But here's what I love most of all. In my time, this is a new chapter of my story, of my life, living life without one of my parents, and how to go on, and how to still remember him and love him, to remember to make it important to talk about him, to have pictures of him. He's just gone, but he's not forgotten, and I will see him again one day, and I have great peace in that. But what I got from this show was this music. And that is what this podcast has been about, is this music and how it's influenced our lives, whether it just be that it brought you a bunch of joy or it brought you a bunch of funny memories when you were in college. Mine has kind of traveled my life and been through a lot of different phases. Really didn't start getting into Dave. Really didn't get to start listening till I was much older, because again, just of the time frame I was born, and then started looking into those lyrics. And then when you figure all of it out and you get to see them live, then that's when all of the magic happens. And so that continues to be my story. I'm in a different chapter of my life, and this is another story of how the music of Dave Matthews Band has helped me get through some things that I could have never dreamed how to get through, or I didn't know how to get through because I had never done it before. But also mostly because how my community of friends that I've met from Dave Matthews Band surrounded me at my most vulnerable time. And they knew that I needed love, that I needed to be surrounded by people that loved me, and that they were going to care for me, make sure I was safe, make sure that my daughter was safe, and that she felt comfortable at all times. I'm just so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for this community. I'm so thankful for the music. So let's talk about Dave Matthews Tribute Band for a moment. So I want to talk about a few guys, and I'm going to name them by name. Dave Matthews Tribute Band: Gary, Tim, Noah, Alex, and David. Those are the members of Dave Matthews Tribute Band. Please follow them anywhere you're on socials. They can be found Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. They even have a website. It's just simply TheTHEDMTB.com, and you can see their tour schedule. They have a tour that's going to be, I think their winter tour is kind of fizzing, but there's a few dates out there. So definitely check, especially if you're in the Northeast, because I know that they're ending the year and they're having a big New Year's Eve bash. So be sure to check out their socials or just go to TheTHEDMTB.com and check out their schedule. So these guys, I've been working with them for a while. And so I've gotten to know them personally, who they are, behind the microphone, who they are behind the drums, who they are behind the saxophone, all of that. I've had the chance to meet a lot of their families, their mothers, girlfriends. I mean, I've kind of just gone through some times with these boys, and it's been a lot of fun to get to know them. And that's why I'm such a big supporter of them, is because I see what their mission is and I believe in their passion. And also I know they're really, 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 really good. And I hear that in the people that are standing in the crowds, the way they're taken back to those moments that they remember that they can't get anymore. Even though you love Dave Matthews Band, of course, it's my favorite band. I want to see them every time I can. But in those in-between times, just like now, when the band's not touring, this is the perfect time to go see a tribute band. And this is the one. Like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of many, many good ones, but this is the one that I work personally with. So I just know a lot more about them. These guys really they knew the situation. They knew that I was going through grief. They knew that, of course, I had just lost my father. They encouraged me to come too. And they used that time not only for me to enjoy the music, but to enjoy, if I wanted, to promote my podcast. Because we're partners, they were able to just let me have some FaceTime with the audience and in turn talk about them. And so that's what we do as partners. We talk about each other. We do a lot of collabs on Instagram together. So be on the lookout for those. And we have future plans together. So definitely stay tuned to the Space Between podcasts. Also stay tuned to Dave Matthews Tribute Band. But I just want a huge shout out to those guys. They know how I feel about them. I wrote a whole paper about them. Legit did. And I sent it to them because I think they, when living the band life is hard, and I've never lived in that life, but I've been around them enough to know that I see it, and it's part of the work, and they're putting in the work, and they're doing really good. And I'm so thankful that we have them for these times like these, that we are unable to get the current Dave Matthews Band. But it's also, they work so well together. Even if I saw Dave Matthews Band one day and saw Dave Matthews Tribute Band the next day, completely different experience, because Dave Matthews Band, current Dave Matthews Band, is not playing like they played in the 90s or in the early 2000s. And so there's a place for all of it, and I just love it so much. So definitely check them out. Guys, thank you so much for having a little patience in me not fulfilling those promises in all the previous podcasts that said I was going to be spitting out all of these episodes. I am going to be getting back on track. I've been at home for a little bit from Florida. I'm working, kids back in school, Justin's back at work. We're living life. We're getting the stuff done, and having to remember, oh, hey, I need to make sure that so much money out of my paycheck goes to a different account so that I can afford to go see Dave next year, right? We've got a plan. And that's nice to have these off seasons so that you can have a little bit of time to save some money. So guys, thanks for listening to this episode. Thank you for letting me share my story, my updated story. Again, if you want to listen to, earlier stories about why I started this podcast and my mental health journey, you can look for those in the earlier seasons of this podcast. There's almost 200 episodes available to you. And we're going to celebrate the 200th episode. So be looking out I'm on all of the socials for more information about that. Of course, you can find me on Facebook. You can look at the Space Between podcast. It's that simple. I don't mind if you follow my personal page. I mean, you can if you can find me. So, and maybe we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Instagram, it's simply under the space between underscore POD. So that's like the little line that lays down. So the space between underscore POD. And then on TikTok, it's simply under the Space Between podcast. Now, if you are interested in being on this show, I would love for you to send me an email. And that is going to be the mainstream way to get to me. Messages on Facebook are hard. Messages on TikTok are hard. Messages on Instagram are very hard. And so if you email me, I am going to be a little more prompt in responding back to you. So if you're interested in sharing ideas or being on the show or recommending someone to be on the show, everyone has an invite to be on the show. No matter how long you've been a fan, no matter if you've never been to a show, I want to hear your story because we're documenting the stories of the fans of the music of Dave Matthews Band. So email me. My email's very, very easy. You're not even going to have to write it down. But if you don't remember it, you can just rewind it to the end of this episode. And every time I'm going to tell you what it is. You also find it on any of my socials. It's simply Renae, Renae, at the Space Between podcast, DMB.com. Very, very simple. So send me an email if you have any requests or if you would like to be the next guest on the Space Between podcast. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, if this was your very first time to listen to this, please listen to another one where I'm not the guest. Because don't judge it on this one. I just wanted to share my heart a little bit, and I thank you for allowing me to do that. Guys, until the next time, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band.